Did Venezuelan jets really try to box in a US P-8 Poseidon and trigger an air response they couldn't match? You're in the right place. In the next minutes, we'll unpack the shadowing attempt near the Caribbean and the exact call that changed the sky. What does a surveillance plane do when fighters close in, and which platforms answer first? Stay with this, because we'll map the step-by-step. The shadow, the radio calls, the US countermove. F-35s from Puerto Rico and a carrier-backed presence that reset the rules over international waters. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. The quiet leg ends when the mission crew sees the spike. A sub-hunter is built to stalk periscopes and surface wakes, not dual fighters, but the first rule still holds. Fly the profile. Finish the job. The P-8 is on station over international waters, west of the island chain and north of the Orinoco Delta routes that smuggle cargo out. It holds a racetrack at mid-20s altitude, steady on about Mach 0.55 to 0.6, sensors set to scan wide. One engine page up front, one navigation page, fuel in the green, and a crew spread between consoles watching radar, ESM, AIS, and EO/IR for anything that matters. For 20 minutes, it's quiet. Then fast movers bloom on the scope. They show first as ESM hits, fighter radars pinging in a search sweep. Seconds later, skin paint appears as two returns at speed, altitude trending toward the P-8's block. Mission leads call out bearing and range, mark the track files, and push the picture over Link 16. Up front, the pilots hold airspeed and altitude within a few knots and feet, because sudden changes can be read as panic or provocation. In the back, the sensor operators shift from broad to sector search, adjust gain, and fence in the contacts with tighter track gates. Radios go to scripted hails on guard and the standard civil channel. Position, altitude, and intentions. Read clearly and repeated. No drama, just the checklist. The likely players are familiar to crews here. Venezuela flies Su-30 Mk2 flankers and older F-16 ABS. Both have shown up on intercepts before. A typical geometry develops. One fighter slides into an offset trail off the right quarter, maybe 5 to 7 o'clock, a few thousand feet low or high to maintain visual and avoid wake, while the other swings wider, testing angles, staying outside the P-8's forward sector. Under international norms, the safe standard is simple. Keep clear, don't cut across the nose, and avoid abrupt close passes. The P-8's crew watches the range ticks fall inside 5 miles. Harassment in these moments is subtle enough to deny, loud enough to feel. A jet might ride close trail with a lateral offset, then change altitude through the P-8's wake to rock the airframe. A pilot can aim a spotlight at night to blind sensors or pop a flare to say, "We're here." Radio taunts come in broken English or Spanish, more bark than bite. None of it forces a turn, but all of it adds risk. The Poseidon stays predictable. Heading steady, altitude steady, lights on per flight rules. Legality matters in the logbook. The water below is international, even if inside a national flight information region run for air traffic control. FIR boundaries don't grant sovereignty. The right to transit is clear. What tips into unsafe is also defined. Failure to maintain safe separation, crossing within the nose arc, or maneuvers that endanger another aircraft, as laid out by ICAO rules and standard NATO intercept procedures. The crew keeps that legal language close because words matter when the tape gets reviewed. The trigger comes when one fighter noses forward, creeping ahead of the bow by a sliver. That crosses the line. The P-8 declares the intercept unsafe on the radio and in the log with time, bearing, and distance. The pilots don't deviate. The mission lead calls out cameras recording, sensor tracks locked, and identification notes updated. A short, clear broadcast states position and intent again. Then the crew sends the support request up the chain through the regional air tasking network. That call doesn't just ask for a buddy to hold hands. It activates an air and sea umbrella that starts moving pieces the moment the message leaves the antenna. That support request hits the network and flips roles faster than the fighters can reposition. The question is why one radio call turns a shadow into a standoff. It's the latter. First rung is local air policing out of Puerto Rico, where alert crews sit cockpits hot with a tanker plan already filed. Second is the P-8's data links, which push every bearing, range, and altitude into the common picture in real time. Third is a carrier group maneuvering in the theater, able to slide coverage bubbles without crossing any lines. Those three pieces don't just add up. They stack into a control scheme that changes the incentives in the air. The request climbs through the air tasking order chain. Controllers tag it as a safety of flight issue tied to counter-narcotics patrols, which keeps the rules tight and the response clean. Alert F-35s step, roll, and launch from Puerto Rico with a KC-135 or KC-46, already tracing a refueling orbit uprange. A picket destroyer on the edge of the operating box nudges to a better radar line of sight, setting its SPY suite to catch any low-altitude push. The P-8 keeps pushing updates over Link 16, time-stamped and auto-forwarded to the inbound fighters. The F-35s don't announce themselves with radar spikes. They approach low observable, using passive ESM to sniff emissions and their AESA radar on narrow beams to avoid giving a clean return. They cue off the P-8's track number and the destroyer's feed, cross-referencing off-board target quality with their own sensors. Each pilot builds a fused picture without lighting the sky with a wide search. The formation splits into a quiet bracket, one high and aft of the intercept arc, one offset to the side where an off-angle shot would come from. Deterrence here is geometry, not volume. When the F-35s sit on those lines, the Venezuelan jets find themselves inside potential missile envelopes that don't show on their scopes. Off-angle shots complicate defensive breaks. A fighter pilot can't assume the only threat is from straight ahead anymore. Even if the F-35s hold fire control radars cold, their data links and sensors give them the firing solution if needed. That uncertainty is the point. You don't need a launch tone to feel boxed. While that bracket settles in, the carrier factor grows. A Ford-class strike group shifts to an influence position without entering anyone's territorial airspace. The shield layers go up. Aegis radar on cruisers and destroyers keeps a wide area picture. Combat air patrols rotate at altitude, and air corridors are deconflicted to keep the P-8 on task with safe egress lanes. The amphibious group already in the region adds depth to coverage, but the carrier's C-2 spine ties it all into one scheme. The Poseidon isn't alone. It's operating under an umbrella that can flex from surveillance to enforcement in minutes. The legal and strategic framing runs in parallel. Washington labels the posture as counter-narcotics and safety of flight. Caracas reads it as coercion tied to regime pressure. Both stories exist at once, and that gap creates risk. Misreads happen when one side thinks the other is blinding sensors, while the other is only documenting. The effect shows up on the scopes. The Venezuelan jets open the range to safe separation, drift outside likely engagement zones, and stop the close trail. The P-8 logs the change, notes the distances, and keeps working. No missiles, no merges, no chest beating. The countermove is domain control. The F-35 bracket and carrier-backed command and control reset the airspace so a slow patrol plane can finish its job. From here, the Caribbean standoff widens into a contest of signals, flight paths, ship tracks, and legal notes traded across an open sea.